Hey everybody, I'm Peter Boland. Welcome to the very first video of what will be many mini lecture videos that I'll be posting here in our Canvas space for our Philosophy 106 World Religions course. So welcome to the first video. So listen, today I just want to draw you into this opening week's work. You finished with the orientation module. You're finding your feet here in our Canvas class, studying the syllabus and all that good stuff, taking care of business. And I just wanted to check in with you and help you establish the path here. What is it we're going to be doing and how are we going to be doing it? So in this little video, I just want to think about a couple of core pieces with you. You know, we're calling it Introduction to Religion because this is a philosophy course, but its focus is on the world's religions, what I often simply call the world's wisdom traditions. These are the places where humanity has stored its deepest insights about how to be a human being, how to live with each other, and how to live in the cosmos in which we find ourselves. You know, the big questions. So I like religious studies, I like religion, and I'm not a particularly religious person myself. I didn't grow up in any particular church or faith tradition, but I found it in college. I found my passion for religious studies in college. And so I just come from that kind of neutral zone, if that makes any sense. And those are some of the things I want to think about with you in this first discussion this week as well, that you'll also find in this first module. So anyway, let's start with this Gandhi quote. This always kind of moved me the way Mahatma Gandhi put it. He said, "It is the duty of every cultured man or woman to read sympathetically the scriptures of the world. If we are to respect others' religions as we would have them respect our own, a friendly study of the world's religions is a sacred duty." Wow, that's how Gandhi puts it, you know, that this work that we're about to begin here, this study of world religions and world scripture, is in Gandhi's mind a sacred duty to do it in a friendly way, just as neighbors would want to get to know other neighbors. So that to me is a nice kind of motto or mantra from which to begin our study, that we aren't here just because we're kind of analytically or intellectually curious, and we're not here to study the enemy so that we can convert them to our religion. We are here out of a sense of deep awe and respect for how other human beings all around the world and across all centuries have navigated this challenging thing called life and have come to some terms. We may not always agree with the terms that they've come to, but they've come to some terms with ultimate reality and their place in it. But you know what? There's a paradox at the heart of religion, isn't there? The word paradox means two contradictory truths that are both still true. I mean, kind of makes your brain melt a little bit. A paradox is a confusing thing, but I think there's a paradox in the heart of religion. Let me see if I can sketch it this way. That religion is the ugliest thing in the world. I know it's kind of a testy way to put it, right? But think about it. When you think back on the history of humankind, it is a long, painful story of oftentimes horror and war and genocide and conquest and inquisition and Holocaust and oppression, often perpetrated by religious leadership. And so you can understand what John Lennon was singing about when he wrote that little song, Imagine. You know, imagine there's no country and no borders and no private property and no religion too. That what if we were just human beings living in the world, growing food, creating things, building things, taking care of each other, no borders, no ideologies, no religions to fight about, no hell below us, above us only sky. So, you know, I don't know where you are on the theism to atheism spectrum. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But I think we all get where John Lennon's coming from, that it's a fun fantasy to kind of imagine how might human history be different if we had never invented this thing called religion. But here's the paradox. I think this statement is also equally true, that religion is the most beautiful thing in the world. Because it is from the religious traditions themselves that the solutions come, that the medicine comes for the disease that I was just talking about. Our penchant for violence and cruelty and classism and us versus them thinking and oppression. It is from our spiritual and religious traditions that the recipe comes for how to repair that damage, how to grow out of our tribalism and our egotism, and how to move into the consciousness of oneness, of loving kindness, of setting aside our egos and self-interest and asking not what's in it for me, but what is the right thing to do. It is from the scriptures of the whole world that impulse comes. So that's, to me, a fascinating paradox at the heart of religion. You know, it's destructive impulses and it's profoundly constructive impulses. So one of the things we get to work on this semester is kind of making peace with that paradox and learning how to think in nuanced ways about all of these questions. It's not a religion good or bad thing. There's too many different elements to sift through, to simplify it down into a yes or no binary, you know, a bumper sticker, a one-liner, a tweet. So let's keep our hearts and minds open to all the nuance that we're also going to be discovering together. Now, let's try and define religion. What is religion? I think one place to start in philosophy is this is what we often do, right? We go back to the origins of words. So the word religion, we can trace back through medieval French and Latin, and then finally to Greek, religare or religio, which meant to link back or to bind together. So at the root of the word religion is this idea of coming out of alienation and atomization and separation and coming into the oneness, coming into coherence. Let's keep that idea at the center of all the work we're going to do this semester. As we approach each religion, ask yourself, how is this thought system, how are these practices, how are these beliefs accomplishing that goal, you know, of bringing people together into a community and into relationship with the cosmos. So let me see if I can define religion in one sentence here. Let me give it a go. How about this? Religion is a belief system about ultimate reality involving rituals, scriptures, community, and religious experience designed to reorient the individual into accord, into harmony with the cosmos, with one another, and with themselves. And so I think that is a quick way of saying what religion is for. The reason people come into religious community, why they join a Buddhist Sangha, why they go to an Islamic mosque, why they go to Roman Catholic Mass, why they participate in a neo-pagan ritual. They're tired of being out in the cosmos alone. They want to come into a community, a family of folks who share their longing for oneness, who share their point of view, who want to sing and dance and pray and break bread together around a belief system in which they can affirm their fundamental, unbreakable connection to the all that is. I think that's what draws people into religious practice. But there are a billion ways to do that practice, to walk that walk. And that's our work this semester too, is to sort through all those varieties. Now, we have to talk about God finally. because at the center of, at least for many people, at the center of their religious experience and their religious practice is some kind of God idea. Now, here in the West, in what we're going to come to call the Abrahamic faiths after the biblical prophet Abraham, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, Western religion, there tends to be a monotheistic, personified God idea at the heart of it. Whereas when we go to India, we'll see a polytheistic system, many, many different kinds of gods. So let's think about God or gods and goddesses in a kind of general sense here for a moment before we get down into the weeds later. And let's frame it this way, that our gods and goddesses are, in a sense, simply personifications of the energies or natural dynamics of the universe. In the earliest religions and mythologies, all of the forces of nature got personified as an anthropomorphic deity. The thunder became Thor in Norse mythology, this guy with a big hammer. And in Hinduism, wind became this god and fire became that god. And every dynamic energy in nature gets a name and a personality and a backstory. And that's what you find in these polytheistic systems. We call that dynamic personification, ascribing to the energies of nature personal characteristics. And you see that all over the world. This is an archetypal, universal thing that we humans do. Now, again, when you get to the Abrahamic traditions, all that polytheism gets distilled down into a monotheism. And then you have to pack all of those qualities into one being, into one entity. But notice this too, that as we consider this dynamic, this thing called personification, notice that when a people imagine their gods, when they approach their gods take the form of local images, let me say it better, imagery drawn from the local environment. So that for the Navajo of the American Southwest, their gods are coyote and raven and snake and spider. And in the Fijian Islands in the South Pacific, their gods are sea turtles and dolphins, right? So you draw from the local environment. And also you draw from the local, as already established, sociological worldview. So that in a matriarchal society where women are in charge, where the family line passes through the female, not the male. Imagine in our culture if every time a man and a woman got married, he took her name instead of the other way around. That's a matrilineal, matriarchal culture. So in a matriarchal culture, guess what? The deities are goddesses, because you take your understanding of human power and project it in your personification onto the heavens as a female. So in those religious traditions, the ultimate mystery of the universe is personified as a feminine energy, Shakti in Hinduism, or Gaia in Greek mythology, the powerful mother goddess. And conversely, in a patriarchal society, if your sociology is male dominated, then you're going to take that understanding of human power and again project it onto the heavens. Your God becomes a man. So our God ideas, this is how Joseph Campbell puts it, our God ideas are masks that we have made. And our God masks, our God ideas are mostly a reflection of our own understanding of things. They don't tell us much about the mystery behind the mask. So Campbell's really cool on this point, that every God idea in the world is a mask that we have made, and the mask often looks like us. But the mask is something that we hang on the formless, nameless mystery of the source of reality, ultimate reality, which is beyond thought and beyond concepts, in a word, ineffable. And so for Joseph Campbell, our God concepts, our God masks, help us direct our attention toward the transcendent, toward the ultimate. But in the end, Campbell warns us, our God concepts, our masks of God, become the final obstacle between us and the mystery we long to connect with. To put it more simply, if you really want to know God, you have to forget everything you know about God. That's how Campbell shapes the discussion. Our God concepts must, in the end, be abandoned in order for us to move into the true reality of the transcendent, which is beyond all concepts, all definitions, all categories. So there's a lot going on already here just in our first conversation about what religion is, the paradox at the heart of religion, and how religion serves us and gives us some tools to work with that are ultimately kind of a little bit too bound to the inflections of this civilization, that culture, this generation. So that our religions often evolve through time as our understandings expand and evolve and grow richer and hopefully truer and more accurate. So one last piece, let me just throw in a list of words here. We've been talking about God a lot, and I've even mentioned words like atheism and theism and polytheism. Let's just sketch a few of those a little more carefully. So theism is the idea that there is a God. So Christians are theists, Jews are theists, Muslims are theists. Theism is the belief in a particular kind of God, a monotheistic God who is, all-knowing and loving God, who is a God of order and a creator God who knows us and cares for us. That's the basic theist position. So if you're Christian, Jew, or Muslim, that's the box you would check. Yes, I'm a theist. I think we all know what an atheist is. In Greek, when you slap an A in front of a word, it negates the word. So an atheist is someone who denies the existence of that kind of God. Yeah. What about agnostics? So there we have another compound Greek root word, agnostic. There's the A again. Gnosis means knowledge. So agnostic sort of technically means not knowledge. So the agnostic is not an atheist. The agnostic says, I hear you atheists, I hear you theists, but you know what? Neither of you have presented enough evidence to convince me of your positions. I just don't know. That's what the agnostic says. And it's a completely sound, legitimate position to say there isn't enough evidence to sign on to either the theist or the atheist camp, so I'm going to be over here. I'm going to let the mystery be. I'm open to whatever is yet to be discovered, but I'm not taking a binary, I'm not playing the binary game. You're either a theist or an atheist. The agnostic says, I'm not playing that game, I'm over here. I just don't know. Now we mentioned polytheism, of course, poly meaning many, so sure, lots of examples of that in ancient mythology. The Greeks were polytheists, the Sumerians, you find it all over the world. And one could argue that today in Hinduism, there is definitely a polytheistic element. There are tens of thousands of gods and goddesses. We have much more to say about Hinduism because it's not that simple. It isn't just polytheistic. So we'll get into Hinduism soon. It'll be the first religion we'll study together, in fact. What about pantheism? Yeah, and you're going to be reading all about all of these and more in chapter 1 of our textbook. But pantheism, from the Greek word pan, for all, like pandemic, yeah, where the disease is everywhere. Yeah, so pantheism, as the name now, I think you can work it out yourself, right? It just means that instead of a disembodied conscious entity in the sky who is God that we, pray to and who does stuff for us and all that, pantheism makes this somewhat startling assertion that whatever ultimate reality is, it is present in all things. And there is nowhere where the deity is not present. In other words, whatever the God energy is, it's not a personified entity. It wells up as all forms. A little bit like the Force in Star Wars. that it is simply the energy that animates all reality. And so where do you find God? Wrong question. Where do you not find God? Nowhere, because everywhere you look is a form of God, the eternal formless presence that takes form in temporality as matter, energy, and consciousness. So pantheism is an intriguing theory of ultimate reality that we're also going to be bumping up against. There's a lot more of those isms. I'm not going to drag you all through that right now. You'll encounter more on your own, and we'll certainly bring up more of those as we go forward. So thanks for sitting through this first video. This is kind of how we're going to do it. You can stop the video anytime you want, go back and take notes and jot stuff down. The captioning is, of course, extremely helpful. So that's video 1. And in the next video, in video 2, we're going to think about the origin of religion. We're going to go back as far as we can and ask the question, when did religion begin? And we're going to ask the question, why did it begin? And also, what's it for? What is religion really for? What's its purpose? We've touched on some of that today, but let's flesh that out more fully. So welcome again very, very much to this study of the world's religions. See you on the other side.